Hi friends, welcome back to the Enchanted Stay, where fantasy books and stray kids live in perfect chaotic harmony just like they should. And today, a Snow White retelling that said, what if we threw every mythological creature we've ever heard of into a blender and just hit puree? And honestly, as a fellow indie author, I respect the ambition. Today we're diving into Snow So White by C. Gockel, a fantasy book that mixes fairy tales, folklore, urban fantasy, vampires, fae, demons, Jack Frost, a dragon, a poisoned apple, and Grendel from Beowulf? You know what? Grab your sword and your light stick and let's go. In the little village of Somer, 20-year-old Cherie lives in a magic-protected haven, watched over by Jack Frost. Yeah, that Jack Frost. When his protective spell starts to fail, the evil queen targets the village, and Cherie must go on a dangerous quest. Along the way, she learns more about her own small magic, befriends Grendel, yes, a vampire Grendel, and uncovers a centuries-old curse linked to an entire city trapped in time. If she fails, the cost is, well, everything. Pretty classic fantasy stakes, pretty wild execution. Cherie is our protagonist. She is 20 years old and grieving her grandmother and learning her place in a world where magic can be very dangerous. My take, she's likable, she's relatable, and I genuinely enjoyed learning things alongside her. But I also found myself wishing for more character growth than what we got. It's the first in a series, so there's definitely space for that later, but I still wanted a little more now. Jack Frost. He only appears through mirrors, which is very cool visually. However, he is also overly protective, borderline manipulative, low-key disturbing as a love interest, and occasionally giving red flag in a blue aesthetic. At times I was like, is this magical romance or is this HR material? Listen, some readers love morally grey, controlling, icy men. I'm not immune to that trope, but this one didn't land for me personally. The dynamic felt uncomfortable, especially near the end of the book. Grendel, the true MVP. I adored Grendel. She's funny, chaotic, mischievous, and absolutely the jester of the story. If the author published a spin-off called The Chronicles of Grendel being done with everyone's drama, instant purchase for me. She brought levity and heart to a world that could sometimes feel overloaded. The Evil Queen. Classic, ruthless villain energy, hunting anyone with magic. She didn't emotionally shake me, but she was a solid fairy tale antagonist. The Worldbuilding. The world is basically urban fantasy USA with magic sprinkled on top. But as someone who has never been to the States, I often felt blindfolded. The descriptions of Chicago especially were sparse for me and I struggled to visualize where we were. The magical elements were fun, the grounding quality not quite enough. If you love urban fantasy and already know the geography of the United States, this won't bother you much. But I personally wanted more atmosphere, themes, and tropes. This book gives us found family, friends to lovers, dark secrets, slow burn, evil queen, mythical beings from wildly different cultures. A Snow White retelling with extra chaos. Now the mix. This is where my feelings are complicated. The folklore mashup here is ambitious, but to me, it felt like a little too much. Like mixing 7 genres into one smoothie. Fun, but confusing. If you enjoy books where you have no idea what magical creature is going to show up next, you will have a blast. If you prefer cohesive lore, then maybe not. Entertainment value. The first few chapters were a bit confusing. It took me 4 to 5 chapters just to get into the story. But once the story kicks in, it becomes entertaining, fast-paced, and unpredictable. It's like the author said, I want chaos, mythology, crossover event, no one can stop me. And honestly, respect. I was just personally more overwhelmed than delighted. The cover art. It's stunning. Absolutely gorgeous. If I judged a book solely by the cover, this would be a 5-star read. Would I reread this book? No. Would I continue the series? Also, no. Mainly because the Cherie-Jack dynamic gave me the ick. But I'm glad I read it. I love retellings, I love indie authors, and this book definitely tried something bold. If you like chaotic fairy tale mashups, strong vibes, and retellings with sharp edges, this might be your next read. My final rating was 3.5 out of 5 stars. That's it for today's indie book review. Have you read Snow So White? If so, then let me know what you think of it in the comments. If you love books, magic, or stray kids, this is your world. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay chaotic, stay magical, and stay.